My name is Stephen Prawley, and I'm an application engineer here at EAC. And today's webinar will be all about going beyond data management with Windchill. So for our agenda today, I've set up 3 different scenarios with 3 different characters. And these 3 different scenarios are going to be going over some different Windchill capabilities. The first one we're going to be looking at is document control. Second one is BOM management with global platforms. And thirdly, we'll be covering some change management information as well. And I will say now these characters are not real, they're made up, but these scenarios and situations with these characters are something that we see very often at EAC on a day-to-day basis. So the first character we'll be looking at is Rita. Rita is a quality manager at a medical device company. And as the company continues to grow, she's really struggling with her current document control system. So more specifically, Rita's spending a super extensive amount of time configuring her document management system. The system that's in place now is showing poor performance and an inability to scale at the enterprise level. She's also seeing a bunch of quality issues. So she has inability to integrate with some of the quality management tasks that she needs to complete. And then finally, she has the inability with her current system to auto-associate processes with specific document types. So with these struggles, she hooked up with EAC and she decided that she's going to go forward with Windchill and its document control capabilities. So document control is one of Windchill's core quality processes. And what this solution provides is really a pre-built configuration around documents, specifically helping with document creation, processes and workflows that control the state of the document throughout its life cycle, change control with these documents, as well as cross-functional collaboration throughout the entire company. Windchill also provides a desktop integration. So we can leverage Windchill functionality in different Windows applications. So for example, in Word or Excel or PowerPoint, and we'll kind of show you how that works as we go through the demonstration and how it'll help Rita out. All right, so some of the essential capabilities of Windchill around document control. Windchill has pre-configured document types and workflows. And the out of the box pre-configured document types that come with Windchill provide a large selection of different document types that you can have, and then as well as the processes around these documents have certain workflows. Now there's out of the box processes and workflows, but you can also take those out of the box processes and change them to meet your needs that you have within your company. There's also some new functionality around Windchill with in the last couple of years concerning document control. We now have the ability to have employee read and sign training. So we can track document distribution and training certifications across employees within the company. Also, what's been added is the electronic signature. So it's a function that was added to Windchill. It's 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. I won't be getting into those in the demonstration, but I did want to note that they were added as well. Document control capabilities in Windchill also include change control, which are going to help Rita reduce scrap and rework and create these auditable change records. Along with that, we have enterprise collaboration. So Rita will now be able to share intelligence while protecting IP and making sure that her data is secure. So really what sets Windchill apart is the baked-in automation and the workflow processes. So we can have different document types, and you'll see that up on the screen here. If you do the document control integration, we'll have all of these different selections to choose from. But really it's boiled down to 4 different types of documents. And the first one is the control documents. So these are the ones that are very tightly controlled and require training. We then have approved and work records. So these would be documents that we'd want to manage the life cycle of and be able to change. And then finally, we have records that that do not need any type of change control. So with each document type, there's an associated lifecycle. And this lifecycle is controlled by a workflow. Now, like I said, Windchill has these out-of-the-box lifecycles and workflows, but also they can be modified to meet specific needs that anyone may have. So now we're going to go into the demonstration. I'll show you guys what it looks like for Rita after she's implemented Windchill. All right, so as I'm in Windchill here, as you can see, I'm signed in as Rita here, and this is what her homepage looks like. Now, because this is the first scenario, I'll kind of go through an overview of how to navigate on the homepage. So we have these different functionalities listed up top here. If we wanted to go to one of them, we could just click on them and it'll scroll down, or you can just scroll down with your mouse as well. And these can be changed. So if we wanted to have one of these up at the top, we could easily just grab this and drag it to the left and put it on top as well. There are a bunch of other ones, other tasks or other functions that we can use on this homepage, and we can bring those up by clicking the Customize button and then selecting the ones that we want to see, right? But for now, Rita is most interested in her tasks that she needs to get done throughout the day, so we'll keep the tasks there. And this is what her homepage looks like. So when we're talking about document control, one of the first things that Rita had to get used to was navigating and finding documents within the Windchill system. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. The first method I'll show you is the search function. So up in the top right hand corner of the screen here, we have this search function. And we can limit this to documents, change requests, any other types that we would want to. And again, this is all user defined. This is customizable as well. So we'll leave it on document and we'll just type a broad keyword in here. Let's just type in scope. Okay, so now we have our search results, and as you can imagine, we have quite a few objects, quite a few documents that contain that keyword. Now, what we can do also is refine these results. So we can click on, let's click on state. Let's say we want to see all documents that are effective right now. And then that filtered our results down to 3, right? Now within this, we also can hover over this little icon here, and it'll bring up a thumbnail navigator. Now from this thumbnail, we can do a bunch of different things. We can copy this document, we can view the information of it, we can open it in our Creo view, which is our lightweight viewable tool, and there's a whole bunch of other things that we can do within this thumbnail. It'll also show what the front page looks like, and we can scroll through the pages as well. Now, if it was used anywhere, it would show up here. What we can also do is toggle this down and look at the related information. So if there were any other documents or parts associated with this document, we'd be able to see them there. We can see that this specific document is linked to a couple change notices. So any information that you may want, you can find that using this thumbnail feature. Another way that we can find documents is using the browse feature. So in here we have products, recent libraries, projects, programs, changes, a whole different array of icons that we can leverage here. But I'm going to go into one of these libraries, and I'll open up the standard operating procedures library. Now, what I'm interested in finding is the folders section. So basically what we're going to be looking at is the folder structure inside of this library. So you can see here that we have our folder structure. We go into one of these folders, we can see all of the documents that are stored in here. Another thing that we can do with the libraries, let's say we wanted to see the team associated with this library. We can click on team, and now it'll bring up all of the roles and team members that are associated with this library, okay? So you can see that we have quite a few people here, and depending on what their role is, they're able to do different actions. And we're able to control, right, what actions each role can do. So I could add members, but I'm going to look at the actions for these roles. So if we expand this out, you can see that we have all these roles here, and depending on what role the person is assigned to, we have all these different actions that we could possibly do, right? So if you're a guest, right, if you're a guest loading up Windchill, you probably don't want your guest to have the ability to, check things out or modify things that they're not supposed to, right? So for the guest, you can see that all they're able to do is just view things. So we can customize what type of actions each role can have within Windchill, specifically to certain teams, products, and whatever you may want. So let's go back into our library here, go into the folder structure. So let's say we want to create a new document. So we can click on the new document icon here. It'll bring up another window. And this is the workflow that we need to work through to create this document. So we can select our document type. Here you can see a list of all of the out-of-the-box Windchill document types that we're able to choose. For this one, I'm going to choose standard operating procedure because we're in the standard operating procedures library. From there, I can choose a template if I'd like to. And then I would have to choose the primary content source. So we could have no content. We could do a local file. We could have a URL link that was linked to some different data that we may want. We can also have external storage. So we could have something that points someone to maybe a file cabinet within the office or something like that. So I'm going to use a local file, and I could browse, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this document from my desktop here, and I can drag that in here. So once I've dragged it in, you can see that the attributes, the name specifically auto-generated to the name of the document. It put it in this folder that I was starting from to store the document. And then from here, we can go ahead and fill out any more attributes that we may want to see with this document. But I'll just hit next for now. Here, if we had any other information, any other data that we wanted to attach to this document, we could do it here. And this could be documents, this could be CAD parts, this could be really anything that we wanted to. We could associate that in this part of the workflow as well. But I'm just going to hit finish to create that document. So you can see that we now have our new document in this folder here. Now let's take a step back, and I know I mentioned in the presentation the desktop integration. So what we can actually do is we can open up our File Explorer, and with desktop integration, we are able to access all of these documents within our File Explorer. So I can go to that same library, and you can see that I have my document uploaded in the File Explorer extension as well. And also you'll notice that we have, instead of document details like you might regularly see, we have our Windchill attributes up here. So we have our number, we have our version, state. If it was checked out by anyone, it would show here, and then the type as well. So there's a few things that we can do from the Windows Explorer. Let's say that we wanted to open up one of these. So let's go to this safety procedure here. It'll ask me if I want to check this out. I'm going to say no, just because I just want to view this. and I'll drag it over to our screen here. So within Word, we also have a Windchill tab up at the top here. So even in Word, we're able to do almost all of the Windchill functions that we may want to use when viewing this document right inside of Word as well, which makes it very easy to work with, super efficient when you're modifying these documents as well. So we're able to check this out. We could set the state, revise it, but maybe what we'll do is we'll create a promotion for this. So we'll hit New Promotion Request, and it'll bring up a similar window that you might see on the web browser. So this is the workflow that we'll be working through to create this promotion. So I'm going to leave the name the same here. You can add any notes for a description if you'd like. You can choose a need by date. We can say that we need this by Friday, we'll say. And then we can move forward. Here, our target promotion state, we're going to set this to released. And then we can go ahead and choose our object to promote. And then finally select our participants. So if I was Rita and I wanted to send this out for a promotion, I'd probably send it out to a different approver. But I'm going to stay logged in as Rita this whole time, so we'll have Rita approve this this specific document, and we can hit finish. So now if I go back into Rita's Windchill here, you can see that we have a new task, right? And the task is that we just created was this approve promotion request. So we'll click on it. And as we open up this promotion request task, we can see instructions, we can see any attributes associated with this task, as well as we can see, what object is being promoted. And it's that document that we opened in Word. So if I'm Rita and I'm assigned the task of approving this promotion, what I would do is I'd go to the object and I'd open it and review it. And from Windchill, we can actually open this in Creo View. So Creo View is our lightweight visualization tool. And inside of here, we can do things like review, create any markups that we might want, anything like that. So now that I have this open and I'm reviewing this, I'm noticing that none of these specific entities are filled out. So what I can do is mark this up. So I'll say, I can put in a note here and say, update document attributes. And I can put in shapes, I can put in arrows, leaders, anything that I may want to mark up this document. So what we'll do now is we'll save this annotation set so that other people can see it. And we can close out of here. So now that we've created a markup for this document, we're going to go back here and say, we're not going to approve this. We want it to be reworked, right? And we want this to be reworked. We want it to be updated according to the markup. And we'll say complete task. So now you'll see automatically Windchill working in the background through this workflow and created a new task for Rita to rework this promotion request, right? And in here we can see, right, our instructions and the special instructions from Rita saying update according to the markup. So what she would do now, she'd go in, she'd check this out, make the appropriate changes, and then say, check it back in and say updated, and she can then submit this rework task. All right. And now if I refresh this, the next step in the workflow after it's been reworked is to finally approve it again, right? So now Rita has the option of going in here again, looking at the document, making sure everything's okay, and then she can go ahead and approve this. She'll say looks good, and we can say complete task. So after implementing Windchill, Rita now has a much better system in document control, utilizing those document types, utilizing templates, and utilizing the workflows that are baked into Windchill to save her time as she's experiencing these struggles with document management. All right, so our next character, our next scenario is Dawn. So she's a product manager at a snowmobile manufacturing company, and she's really struggling with BOM management. So the market is demanding more platform options for snowmobiles, and with all these different platform options, her current system just can't handle it, and she's experiencing a ton of issues. So more specifically, she needs an enterprise strategy to meet these diverse customer needs. She needs to maximize the efficiency of reuse between snowmobile variations. And right now, our current PLM system has difficulty creating and organizing these product variations. So basically, she needs a solution that can work with these different product variations that can be controlled and tracked throughout its whole life cycle, along with change management, right? And she can do that with Windchill, and specifically with BOM management with global platforms. And the global platforms part is kind of the part that takes the BOM management above and beyond regular BOM management. So her goal is to manage a family of products. And she gets there using these 4 different pieces. So the first piece is the platform product architecture. So this is from the system design and requirements phase. It basically builds a physical and functional architecture from which we can create different variations of the product. The second piece is these platform modules. And in these we create, how do we organize these separate variations? That's where we do this. We do this in these platform modules so that we can have multiple levels of product capabilities. The third piece is the platform controls. So this is kind of how do we control the different variations. And from here we have options. So we can have sales options, technical options, design options, manufacturing options, and then we can also have rules. So these rules are what control the compatibility of the required dependencies. So let's say you have a snowmobile and you have a certain engine, but that certain engine is not compatible with a certain seat or something like that. We're able to control that within this global platforms control. And then finally, we have configurations. And these are how do we package the different variations. These are kind of like the end product of mixing up the different variations to create a single final product. All right, so the global platforms approach in Windchill is what allows us to create and manage different product variations or offerings. So the platform is like the high-level master bill of materials where the architecture exists and all the possible variations are available. And then that platform is broken down into modules or interchangeable members that we can choose for different product variations. Because if you can imagine, if we have a snowmobile that has maybe a different engine, different seat, there are a lot of parts within that snowmobile that we have to reuse for different configurations, right? And then from the module, we have the product families. And modules and platforms are used in combination to create these product families, which is where we have our different configurations that reuse these interchangeable parts and data. So let's check out what it looks like for Dawn after she implements Windchill. All right, so now I'm on Dawn's home screen of Windchill here. And you can see her homepage looks a little bit different. She did a little customization to hers. What I'm going to do is go to Browse, and I'm going to look at the structure for this snowmobile product. And this is basically where our high-level master platform architecture exists. So I'm going to expand this out by 3 levels. And you can see that here is our bill of materials, right? Here are all of our different modules and all of our different variations or variants within those modules. And you can see that I have this visualization tab over here, so we can exactly see, let's see what's the difference between the ProRide chassis and the Axis chassis. It'll highlight and show you, what's different between the two. So here we can see all of the different variations that we have. We have 4 different options for the engine. We have 4 different options for the windshield. And actually inside this visualization tool, we can go ahead and modify this to show what we want to see. So let's say we wanted to see the different types of windshields that we have in this overloaded assembly. So we can click on it. We can actually move these guys out to see the differences between them visually. So it just provides an extra level of visual validation. What we can also do is filter this bill of materials structure. And we have some save filters, so we'll check out those. Let's say we wanted to see the 600 Indy snowmobile platform. So if we select that as it loads, you'll see that the structure now only has 1 variant for each module. And we can see exactly, from a visual standpoint, what does that look like, right? And we can go ahead again and pick on all of these and see where they're located and what they look like. What I can also do is I can edit these filters. And here's where our different options come into play. So we have option filters where we can click back and forth between our sales option, design option, and these are created. We could also have a manufacturing option if we want. It's very customizable in that way. So this is where we choose, what color do we want this thing to be? What type of sled are we using here? And then for our design options, that would be, the specific components within the snowmobile. So what chassis should we use? What engine? And actually what we can do is we can configure this. Let's say we want to see, what models were available on a certain date. What we can do is we can configure this filter and say, let's do it to date effectivity. And we can pick a date here. We want to know, let's say in June of 2021, what options do we have and don't have? So we can hit OK here. And now, for example, if I go to rear suspension, you'll see that the Pro XC is grayed out because during that time period, we weren't able to assemble this, right? And we can do this for the future too, right? If we have some parts that are effective, for the next year model, we could model this, or we could filter this um, to show that as well. All right, so how do we create these options? We can do that by browsing over to the details of this uh, BOM structure. And the first thing we're going to look at is the option pool. So the option pool is where we have the pool of all the possible variants and options that we can have with this snowmobile. So this will contain some options that might not even be available in a certain date, right? It just has everything that you can possibly have. So if I expand this, I can see all the possible options for the engine, windshield, so on and so forth. And now with this option pool, I can create rules. So these rules are kind of help with the compatibility of, um, whatever variation you're trying to create or analyze. So we have include rules. So for example, if we have, a windshield that is the low BLK windshield, then we're allowed to have handguards, right? We can also have exclude rules. So if we have, handguards, then we're going to exclude the windshield of tall smoke, right? So this is where we create the rules that help, kind of narrow down what parts are compatible with each other and what parts are not. Now the option sets is kind of the next iteration. So it's what we want to make available for everyone, right? And this is actually what's linked to that BOM structure that I was showing before. So you can see in here, we have all of our different options here. For our engine, we only have the available options, right? I think there was one more before for the option pool. And then also in here, we can validate our rules. So we can look at our design options. And again, we can set the effectivity and say, let's say we choose the windshield of tall smoke and we want to put in handguards. It won't allow us to do that. So by looking at this, we can validate those rules that we created. Okay, so let's go back to our structure here. And now Don wants to analyze, what it would be like if a customer went to the website and they built their own snowmobile. So we can do that by creating these things called configurations. So I'll go ahead and create a configuration here. Configure. And here again, we can set the any specifications or filters that we want. We could use data effectivity again. But for now, we'll go ahead and click next. Actually, in the first step is where we actually choose what options we want with our snowmobile. So I'll go ahead and start building one. So let's choose red. We can choose sled type. We'll choose switchback. Then for our design options, we can choose the 800 engine. And you'll see that some of these rules automatically updated some of these parts as well. And we'll just go through and select the rest of these options for this guy. think I'm gonna have to restart this because I messed up the messed up the workflow. So I'll just go ahead and do that quickly. And just going through here and picking some options for our specific configuration. All right, now I should be able to go next. Don't have any parameters. And now we want to create a new variant specification. So we'll hit next, that looks good. And maybe we'll call it the current year switchback. And we'll also want to create a new module variant as well. All right, so with doing that process, Dawn was able to kind of replicate, what a customer would do. If a customer was to choose the specific options, what would that look like? And now we can look at the structure of this new variant specification, this new configuration, and see what it looks like from a visualization standpoint. And it would look something like this, right? So she can very easily now come in here, look at the master platform, create configurations, compare different configurations using filters. She can choose options for those filters according to certain effectivities. Now she just has a much better system that's able to manage that huge complex data set of this master snowmobile. All right, so we'll move on. And before I get to the next one, I have this quote on here that I think is important for us to read here. So it was said by Ernst Fricke, and it reads, "There's no engineering of successful systems without any changes. They are the rule and not the exception in product development." And I think this statement is even more true today with today's world of increasingly complex products. So today we have products with, that often include mechanical, electrical, firmware, software, that all must be digitally integrated and synced together. And this requires a great deal of collaboration across multiple groups, engineering, manufacturing, sales. And at the same time, we have this demand for more customizable products with multiple options, as we saw with Dawn. So it kind of adds like an additional dimension to what changes need to be done to the designs. And unfortunately, many companies are falling behind due to their poor or manual change management processes. And that's kind of where Pat was at before he had Windchill as well. So Pat's the program manager at the snowmobile manufacturing company, and he's going through those same struggles. He's struggling to control the change management process with these increasingly complex products, with all these variations and options. He's pulling his hair out because he doesn't know how to work with it, right? More specifically, his current system is slow, inefficient. He's having difficulty identifying, the data requiring change. His system has a lack of visibility to the change status, which is causing sales, manufacturing, engineering, all the different groups in the company to be out of sync. So of course, the solution for Pat is Windchill PLM change management. And really what Pat needs is a process that provides the traceability and governance of changes to a product's configuration throughout its entire life cycle. And as a result of implementing Windchill, Pat is now able to make dynamic, fast-paced, coordinated changes throughout the product lifecycle while ensuring that everyone in the company is accessing the most up-to-date information, which in turn will save Pat and save the company precious time to market in that growing competitive market today. All right, so some capabilities of Windchill surrounding change management. It's a scalable and tailorable change process. So similar to a lot of the other things that we were talking about today, if the out-of-the-box workflow needs to be changed, it can easily be changed to fit your company's needs. Windchill PLM also ensures better enterprise visibility to change status and data, making sure all the necessary employees are on the same page. And Windchill also does a great job of providing full data traceability. So it clearly defines and tracks what data items are being changed, how they're being changed, and by who changed them. All right, so this slide goes through kind of an overview of the change management process in Windchill. So first we start with what is driving the change. So this could be a problem report. This could be a deviation or waiver, customer complaint, nonconformance, so on and so forth. This change driver, from this change driver, we then create a change request. And this is where we evaluate the technical and business justification. We plan the change. Is it a minor, major change? Should we fast track it or full track it? And create the change review board. From there, we create the change notice, and this is where we create and execute the implementation plan. So we have our implementation board, we release these changes, and then we go in and audit the results. So with this change notice and the implementation plan, we have certain change tasks that we shell out to different people in the company. They go ahead and complete these tasks and create affected and resulting objects that we can then review. So we then close out these change tasks, close out the change request, and finally close out the problem report. And that's kind of what the out-of-the-box Windchill change management process looks like. So let's take a look at Pat and his Windchill interface after implementation for change management. All right, here you can see I'm logged in as Pat. He also has his tasks up on his home page here. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through some of Pat's tasks. So the first one we're going to look at is associated with this change notice. So it's updating the snowmobile platform for the next model year. So what we can do is we can go into this task. And kind of similar to the promotion with Rita, we can go in and complete a rework. But what we're going to do is check out this change notice and see what it's about and check out the implementation plan. So in the implementation plan, like I said in the last slide, this is where we have our change tasks. So this is where we shell out these tasks to different people within the organization. So you can see we have manufacturing engineers, design engineers, we could have sales in here, whoever needs to be involved with this change. So let's take a look at one of Dave, the design engineer's tasks. Basically, Pat's job is to look at all these tasks, audit the results. So let's audit the results for this task here. And what we can do is go down to the affected and resulting objects. So linked to this specific task, these are all of the affected objects or the old objects, and then the resulting objects too. So these would be the new objects that we're trying to push through with this change. So let's say that Pat wants to know, what exactly is changing between the old model and the new year model. So he can click on, we're going to do it for this standard hood variant. He can click on compare part structure. And then he can go ahead and review, utilizing this tool, the exact specific differences between the two models, last year's and the new year's. So we can scroll through these. They'll actually highlight, Windchill will highlight in blue which specific things are changing. And similar to kind of the BOM structure, we can go ahead and open up this visualization tab, and it will highlight visually what we're looking at here. So if we expand this guy out, we can see the changes highlighted in blue. And it looks like many of the changes are coming from this gauge on the top of the hood here, right? So we can scroll through all these differences and see where they're highlighted. You can see that we have a bunch of new software stuff over here. So really, Pat just wants to use this tool to see, what exactly is changing. Is it done right? Does he see anything that pops out to him as, being incorrect? And it's very easy to do this leveraging this compare tool. All right, so we'll go back to that change notice again. Now let's look at one of the tasks for a manufacturing guy, Mike the manufacturing engineer. So again, we can go into his task here. We can open up the details, the process, the resulting and affected objects. So now you'll notice that in the design engineer's task, he had a bunch of variants and CAD assemblies and stuff. We can also link data to, or link changes to manufacturing data. So this could be process plans, operations, things like that. So let's look at one of these guys. So let's open up the information for this process. And if we look at the structure here, so Pat wants to come in here and see, okay, where are these changes existing? What's being changed? Specifically with the work instructions, right? Because this is a process. You know what? I'm going to look at a different one here. I'm going to look at the drivetrain one. So we can see that in this drivetrain, we have this little icon that says a resulting change exists. So we can go ahead and click on that and generate some work instructions. There we go. And now Pat can go through and review these updated work instructions and see where there are any changes exist, right? And we can see that we have this little icon here, this little red delta, indicating that we have a change to this part of the process plan, right? The Pro CC rear suspension. All right. So if I'm Pat, I'm going to go back to the change notice. I've reviewed all of these, right? Reviewed all the change tasks that were sent out to the specific people that was needed. And we can go back to our home page then. And we can go into our task for auditing the change notice. And here we can either complete or rework. Similar to what we did with Rita. For this example, we're just going to say everything looks good. All right, so that was kind of a summary of what Pat's day-to-day looks like now with change management. As you can tell, Windchill is super complex and kind of all-encompassing with so many different data types and different variations and whatnot. It really can help with really complex products and nailing down that change management process with the baked-in automation that is inside Windchill. All right, so after looking at these three different scenarios, these three different characters, we can really see the value that Windchill provides, above just regular data management, life cycle of CAD parts, right? Windchill can really do a lot of things. And it's really up to, the customer of how much they want to utilize it. But really what it's going to do is it's going to provide you value specifically with these three things that I talked about, specifically for time to value, right? So we're going to be saving time with all of these automated things. We're going to have an increase in quality with a more controlled change process. And then finally, we're going to have very, very good data security. And if you're wondering what Pat, Rita, and Don look like now, they're super happy. That's their CEO right there clapping his hands because they hooked up with the AC and got Windchill implemented for us.